Howdy friends, welcome to the Reloading Room. You're watching Brass Bear Range. I'm Darryl.
And I'm Spencer.
And before we begin our presentation, we'd like to start by performing a quick check clear of all the firearms we're going to be demonstrating today.
Alright, where'd you put that?
Right there.
Alright, starting with our Smith & Wesson Model 629 44 Magnum revolver. Cylinder is clear. We are clear. Moving on to my Mossberg 88, my Mossberg Maverick 88 12 gauge pump action shotgun. Clear, clear. And this off-brand, made in Italy, Connecticut Valley Arms, whatever, single shot break action shotgun, clear. Savage Axis 7mm08 bolt action rifle, magazine fed, clear. And finally, well not finally, and this inline CBA Wolf muzzleloader. You'll notice that there is a rather substantial block between the hammer block and the barrel. And that is because this piece right here, which is a primer block, goes and sits right in there. And if that's not in there, this gun's not firing. So, weapon clear. And finally, my CZ75 PO1 9mm automatic. Magazine's out, however, it does not mean the weapon's empty. What does mean that it's empty is when the breech is clear, or the chamber's clear. Alright, I think we're good.
It's important to note, folks, that one of our biggest goals here is to promote safety when handling firearms. Unfortunately, negligent discharge kills quite a few people here in the United States.
I think the statistic is 505 deaths on average a year due to negligent discharge. Now, in the continental 50 states, it doesn't sound like a whole lot, but honestly, one's too many.
One is too many. When handling firearms, especially when you're doing demonstrations or passing them off to your friends, always verify that your weapon is clear before doing anything with it.
Without a doubt. If you save your buddy a toe or a kidney,
huh?
That's pretty good, I'd say. Well, today's video, what we're going to be discussing is something that we like, well, that everyone in the firearms community likes to refer to as the lock, stock, and barrel. Yeah.
So, when we talk about lock, stock, and barrel, what we're talking about is the action of a firearm, its stock or grip, and the barrel of the firearm, the tubular cylinder hollowed out and the bullet will travel through. Since the invention of the metallic cartridge back in the
1860s,
very early, we have had lock, stock, and barrel, and the weapons have functioned in same basic manner since then. So anything from the trapdoor Springfield, firing its original 45-70 chambering, to some of the most advanced modern military rifles that we have today, all function in the same basic manner, where whether you have a rimfire or a centerfire cartridge with a primer like this, a pin of some sort will strike either the rim or the primer on this cartridge, which will ignite propellant inside of the casing and send the bullet or the ball or whatever projectile you have down the barrel.
and thus making it lethal. Now, if you were to take a cartridge and just toss it in the fire, you'd be fine because there's not enough pressure behind the ball to really do any sort of damage.
You might
conk you on the head, but
you might get cut by a piece of stray brass, but
yeah.
You really need chamber pressure to propel one of these bullets or ball, or once again, whatever you're sending down through the barrel. And to achieve that, you need your lock, stock, and your barrel. So, where do these terms come? Stock is an old French word for stump. It's the base, the butt of your firearm. Barrel, I believe that was French as well. Of course, we know what a barrel is. Large cylinder that holds things. Well, in our case, it's bored out on either end, so you can push something into it and propel it outward. And lock, the earliest reference to a lock that we could find was in The Complete History of the Jacobite Rebellion, written in 1752. In this book, the writer references a pair of his dueling pistols as having a lock, stock, and barrel. lock, meaning the flintlock action that this weapon had. So even though we use that term to discuss flintlocks, match locks, wheel locks, we're discussing the action of that firearm. So in the modern day community, we've transferred that lock term over to simply mean the action. So we use that to describe our modern firearms as well.
See, there are also a lot of other sub-terms that we will be covering as well. Like for instance, in the 1840s, the Prussians produced a rather short-lived style of firearm known as a needle rifle. It served its role in the Prussian military, several of the Germanic states, as well as the French military, and a couple others that adopted it rather briefly. But generally speaking, we're going to keep it to the whole pump action, bolt action, flintlock, matchlock, stuff like that. So if we get any further into that, we'll make it a long video.
Well, without further ado, let's demonstrate some of the firearms we've shown.
Oh yeah, let's go.
All right, folks, and before we give you a demonstration of the firearms, we'd like to talk a little bit about the cartridges that they use, as we have several designs here that use several very different cartridges, but all still behave in the same manner, using the lock, stock, and barrel to send these projectiles downrange. So first we're going to talk about is our little 22 long rifle rimfire, which you can see here. Notice there's no primer on the back of this cartridge. What would happen is the firearm that would use this would have a pin or some other device that will hit the rim here, and that will set off a small propellant charge that's built right in. That will ignite the main propellant charge and send our tiny little bullet out of the barrel and downrange. This cartridge has been around for a very long time, I may note. Rimfires were some of the first metallic cartridges designed. 22 long rifle has been around since, I think the mid-1800s. I have to check my facts there, but this has been around an incredibly long time, but still going to behave similarly to, say, our 9mm, which has been around since early 1900s. And you can see here we have a primer. This is a center fire cartridge, meaning a pin would strike this primer and ignite our propellant that is inside of here, sending our bullet out of the barrel of your handgun or rifle or carbine and downrange. The same thing applies with our .30 caliber carbine cartridge. Again, primer, center fire, strike it, and go off. Same for our 2 rifle cartridges. Our .30-06 here, which has been around since, 1906. Been around a very long time. And we got our much more modern 7mm08, both operating, once again, the same exact manner. And even our shotgun shell operates in the same manner. Now, this isn't a full metallic cartridge. Some were, such as like your 10 gauge or 10 bore, they used to call them bore originally, would have metallic cartridges. What you see now is they've got a piece of brass down low, and this is to contain the pressure of the powder charge. Primer would strike this, propellant would ignite, send your ball or your slugger or whatever projectile you have down the barrel and downrange. All of these cartridges, throughout their many years and time range spectrums where they've come from, operate in the same basic manner using a lock, stock, and barrel.
Alright folks, so here we are with our break action single shot 12 gauge shotgun. She's a little rusty, but yeah, she works. Now, as you can see, the weapon is empty. Now, keeping with our general theme of lock, stock, and barrel, here's our stock, our forestock, of course, our barrel, rather self-explanatory, and our lock is actually this bit right here. What this is, of course, is a break action single shot shotgun. Now, what happens is you push this lever down, which simultaneously opens the shotgun and cocks the striker. Now, when you close it, and pull the trigger, what happens is this trigger pulls down a sear, which is connected to the striker, which throws the firing pin forward, strikes the primer, and sends your shot downrange. Now, it's a very basic design, but it's a tried, tested, and very true design. And, well, that's basically it. There's your single shot shotgun.
Here, folks, we have our inline muzzleloader. Now, this operates similarly to most muzzleloader designs, but with a more modern twist. So most muzzleloaders, you would see some kind of our original lock mechanism. There'd be a pan up here. You would put some powder in, or some of them had a fuse that you would light and would slowly move forward with the trigger, and it would ignite and set the powder charge off inside of the chamber and send the bullet or shot, whatever you had, down the barrel. With an inline muzzleloader, it works a little differently. Still has our lock, stock, and barrel, but you would put your powder charge, a wad if necessary, and then your ball in the muzzle. Pack it down just like you would any other muzzleloader. Reaffix your ramrod. It's very important to reaffix your ramrod, especially if it's a heavier design. It can throw accuracy off surprisingly, and mileage varies from gun to gun, but very important to remember that. So with this particular design, after you have everything packed down, you'd have this breech plug that would be screwed in here. And where the modern twist comes in, this takes a standard shotgun primer, much like the one here. This is the same primer that would be in a 12-gauge shotgun shell. It sits in here, like so. This would be screwed in here, finishing off our chamber. Then you would cock the hammer, pull the trigger, strike the primer, immediately igniting your charge versus a muzzleloader, which may take a few seconds. Ignite our powder and send our ball down range. Now, while this doesn't use a metallic cartridge in the same manner as every other firearm we've demonstrated, the chamber takes the place of our metallic cartridge. So, once again, we have our lock, stock, and barrel, and even this muzzleloader operates in the same manner as our more advanced firearms.
All right, folks, so moving on to a more advanced design of shotgun. This is my Mossberg Maverick 88 pump action 12 gauge. Keeping with our, again, general theme of lock, stock, and barrel. Well, this is basically our lock here, this whole assembly. Our stock being our butt stock, and technically the pump. And then the barrel, and as you can see, the barrel. Underneath here is a tube magazine, which holds 5 shells of 2 3/4 inch shotgun, 12 gauge shells. On racking the pump, it ejects a spent case, or spent shell, and tosses in a new one, which an elevator grabs here and lifts up into the way of the bolt. And then there's actually a hammer hidden in here. This is technically a hammerless design. And disengage the safety, pull the trigger, the hammer trips, goes through the hole, hitting the striker and sending shot down the barrel. And well, there's your pump action shotgun.
Here, folks, we have another rifle. This one is bolt action, meaning there is a bolt that you manually work by hand to feed rounds into your firearm and then lock it up and fire it. Once again, we have our lock, our stock, and our barrel. Lock being the bolt mechanism chamber on this particular firearm, our detachable magazine, the safety mechanism, and our locking lugs on the bolt. So how this firearm would work is, if you had your magazine in, or you can feed them by hand, you take our rifle cartridge and insert it in, or the magazine would feed it in for you when the bolt opens. You send it home with the bolt, pushing it shut and locking it down. I'll rotate this around here so you can see a little better. This creates an effective gas seal, locking everything in. All you need to do then is pull your trigger. It'll strike the primer of your rifle cartridge, igniting the propellant inside and sending the bullet down the barrel out of the muzzle. Operating just the same as our 2 shotguns and even our muzzle loader, more or less.
All right, folks, so what we have here is my baby, my CZ75 PO1. I love this gun, 9mm automatic. Keeping with our general theme of lock, stock, and barrel, our lock is actually a set of locking grooves that are cut into the barrel and the slide. It's a whole lot of stuff that I'm going to go into in a later date. But our stock is our grip, and our barrel, of course, is shrouded by the slide. But moving on from this is a semi-automatic design, which means that with every pull of the trigger, it will strike the primer of your cartridge, and it will cycle the slide. Now when it cycles the slide, an empty casing will be ejected here, and as the slide moves forward, it will pick up a cartridge from the magazine, push it into the chamber, and the slide will continue to move forward, locking it into battery so that you may fire your weapon. Now, this is, again, the same general design that we've seen since the 19th century, honestly. It's still a lock, a stock, and a barrel. It's just with a couple modern twists on it. And like I said, at a later date, we'll go into this and I will explain how this pistol works and where it came from, and we'll just get you more information. But for now, this is the basics of a semi-automatic pistol.
And here, folks, we have my baby. Moving up the handgun food chain, we've got a Smith & Wesson Model 629, chambered in .44 Magnum, which we have here. Rather large handgun cartridge. The revolver design's been around for a good number of years, and it's operated in the same basic manner since its invention, where we have our lock is a cylinder here. We have a forcing cone where the cartridge will move out of the cylinder, which acts as a chamber, get forced through this cone to build pressure, and then go down through the barrel. A hammer, our trigger, and on this more modern design, we also have a lock built in here if you need to use it. As with every other design we've shown, we have our lock, stock, and barrel that allows this firearm to function. By either pulling the hammer back and pulling the trigger, or this being a double action revolver as well, we can pull the trigger and it will rotate the cylinder and the hammer will come back. It will strike the primer of this .44 Magnum cartridge in the cylinder, send the bullet down the remainder of the cylinder because it does not fill the entire cylinder, send the bullet into the forcing cone here, very hard to see in here, and then send the bullet out of the muzzle. As with every other design we've seen, we have lock, stock, and barrel that allows this firearm to fire a cartridge, send it downrange, and hit a target.
Well, folks, as you can see, as long as you stuck around this long, pretty much every firearm that we've covered is essentially the same thing. Whether it's your inline muzzleloader, your pump-action shotgun, your double-action revolver, your semi-automatic pistol. Every firearm that we've presented today had a lock, a stock, and a barrel. And if you were to trace the firearms lineage all the way back to early matchlock rifles, well, I hesitate to say rifles, but early matchlock guns from the early Chinese firearms period, you will find that every firearm has a lock, a stock, and a barrel. And I hope you took away some very valuable educational points from this video. We both appreciate all of you stopping by and giving us the time of day, honestly. And we hope to see you on the range.
Be safe and have fun.